So for this week's main topic, Michelle decided to dive headfirst into the holiday season. Even though we're not quite there yet, we are celebrating in most of the parks. It's gradually getting there in Epcot. Michelle, you said the tree is up now at Epcot, which is really nice. Once we get through Thanksgiving, it will go full-fledged into a holiday season at Epcot as well. But it's everywhere. Disneyland this week kicked off their holiday season as well. It's everywhere else. And one of our favorite things that we've enjoyed through the years is getting to experience the Candlelight Processional. So Michelle decided maybe it's time to take a look back at the Candlelight Processional through the years, right?
Right. Yeah. So we're going to take a look at, like you said, a look back at kind of how it came about. But we also, it's not just going to be all historical. We have some more current things about it that I think you'll hopefully find interesting, some fun facts. And I'm hoping that this will be edutaining for you as well.
100% will be, because Michelle is concerned about it, which means it'll be spectacular, amazing, fantastic. All things that Michelle's segments always are.
Well, and originally I also thought I was going to throw in some other information about different holiday things going on and some of the historical holiday celebrations that Disney parks and have offered. But actually, I think I found enough information here that when I was looking at how long it could have gotten, I decided just to focus on Candlelight Processional. So we'll go with that.
All right, let's get to it. I can't wait, because I always learn some amazing stuff from Michelle's research pieces, and I think you will too. So let's go ahead and get to it. Michelle, go ahead.
All right, so we're going to talk about this amazing show, but I want to share with you all first some of the resources that I used were predominantly information from D23, from the Disney Family Museum blogs, Disney Parks blog, Disney News magazine from the 90s and early 2000s. That was a magazine put out by Disney. And this the giant holiday book that was
You barely lifted it.
I know. It's amazing.
It's about the size of Michelle.
If you like coffee table books like I do, it's an amazing book. A lot of great pictures. Rebecca,
if you're watching on our YouTube version of this episode,
Right.
you can see the book there.
It has a lot of great information about holidays at the Disney parks, and it was co-written by Rebecca Klein, who is the director of Disney Archives. Now, one of the things that I found in using all these great resources that I feel like were pretty reliable is that there were some variations in the years things happened. So rather than focusing, and there's no quiz here, so you don't need to memorize all the years. I just thought the information about the flow of how it came about was pretty similar in all these sources. So let's take a look at our journey of the Candlelight Processional. It actually came from very humble beginnings, and it evolved. It was not something that was initially came up with as this is what we're going to do, this grand Candlelight Processional. So it started with, as I mentioned, humble beginnings, where they had use of the bandstand. Now, it started when Walt really wanted to have Disneyland provide Dickens carolers for its first Christmas celebration in December of 1955. So Dr. Charles Hurt, who was from the USC School of Music, he actually helped train and direct these carolers. And as you can see, if you're looking at the video, there's a picture in the bandstand, which is now where Fantasy Fair is at Disneyland, if you're familiar with Disneyland. But they would have some, Dickens carolers and some choir performers come join them, and they rechristened that area for that time of year as the Christmas Bowl.
Cute.
Yeah. But then it started to progress, and we're going to take a look at the next set of pictures here. Now, Dr. Hurt thought bringing in some more choirs would really help even make it much better. And if you're watching here, the photo on the left, you can see that there are a lot of carolers proceeding down Main Street, USA. And this really introduced some unique issues and challenges. So first of all, they tried moving it down to Town Square by the flagpole, but being that was flat ground and the carolers ended up in a circle around Dr. Hurt and the conductor, it really posed a limit on what the guests at the parks were seeing. They were kind of like seeing the backs of these performers. There was also one recount that during that time frame that at one point, some of the guests were kind of staging themselves in the area where the performers were supposed to be. And so when they came down Main Street, they couldn't get to that spot. And they had to just kind of find space and try to make sure they could see the conductor at the same time. So apparently that was before the Disney crowd control tape was being utilized on the ground. But anyways, they started seeing that maybe this wasn't the ideal spot. So they did erect some bleachers by the train station to allow the carolers to actually face the guests on Main Street. So I think that, they saw a way to start making it better, and they could have more choirs there to make it even bigger. So moving on from there, it turned into a nighttime processional and with the candles, and that's where you could see it was a much more than dramatic show. And who doesn't love a nighttime spectacular at a Disney park, right?
For sure.
But Walt's motto always was to plus things, so the show continued to plus. And so the next thing that happened was the introduction of the living Christmas tree. And that came from the Western High School a cappella choir. They actually came up with the idea of coming up with these risers to form a tree. And so everyone at Disney and the guests were so impressed with that they continued to have them come every year. In fact, for the next 21 years until that school's music director had retired. And then what happened was the Disney Employee Choir, which was a volunteer of Disney cast members from the parks, the studio, and Disney Imagineering, were assigned to do the living Christmas tree. And that was a tradition that started that continued on.
You can really hear how this thing is taking shape into what the Candlelight Processional is that we know today, for sure.
Right. And also introduced around that same time was the use of a guest narrator. And the first one was Dennis Morgan. And he was invited to read portions of the biblical Christmas story between some of the songs. And if you look really closely in that picture, you can see he was there. And he actually did come back several years after that as a celebrity narrator. So as you can see, it wasn't started out as a concept of what we know now. It grew into that. Now, interestingly, over the years at Disneyland, some of the spots did change. It went to the Fantasyland Theater in 1998. And then in 2003, it went back to Main Street, and that's where it is now. And we're going to talk a little bit more in a few minutes about the now. Obviously, this was so well received by everybody and such a beloved tradition starting that when Walt Disney World opened, they replicated the show over in the East. And so even from the very first year that Walt Disney World opened in 1971, they offered guests the opportunity to see the Candlelight Processional. And if you look at the picture here, you can see that it was actually held at Cinderella's castle.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool that, for those of you who get to watch this on YouTube, and again, I know this doesn't work for our podcast, but once you've listened to the podcast, go back and watch the YouTube, because Michelle has some amazing pictures that she's obtained from various different sources, including D23 and some other sites as well that showcase what she's talking about.
Yeah. I mean, so, if you've seen some of the images, whether it's been photos or videos of when Walt Disney World opened, when you had the 76 trombones going down Main Street. I mean, that area in front of Cinderella's castle has historically been used to have orchestras and shows and everything like that, big events there. So it made sense that they had it there in front of Cinderella's castle, which made a spectacular backdrop to the Candlelight Processional.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Like, I'd love to see that now.
Right.
I'd like to see them do that now. But I know that's they focused it elsewhere. But,
Right.
It looks amazing. Like, that would have been something definitely to see back in the day, for sure.
Right. And obviously that's the location, that's the park that had it at first, because that was the only park at the time.
Right.
It didn't move over to Epcot immediately, though. In fact, it wasn't until the early 1990s that it was transitioned over to its current home, which is the American Gardens Theater at Epcot. So,
by the way, just to describe this picture for those of you who just listen to the podcast, it's the choir's basically in front of Cinderella Castle, and the living tree is in front of Cinderella Castle with a star on top and everything. It's gorgeous. You can probably find that photo online, but go back and watch the YouTube version because you'll want to see this. It's interesting.
Yeah, and if you look, you can kind of see the orchestra in front of them as well. It really is a amazing view that was there. I wish I had seen it. You know? So
me too.
All right, but let's take a look at today and kind of do a little comparison of, what is taking place today. Now, over at Disneyland, it's pretty much an invitation to see it. Not that it happens when the park is open, but in terms of getting seating to actually watch the show, it is by invitation. And it's one of those things I was reading. If you have to ask, how do you get invited? You're not getting invited. Because if you are,
and obviously we had to ask, so we're not waiting patiently for our invitation. Yeah.
Right.
But if they want to invite us, we'll go.
That's true. That is true. I mean, it's mainly made up of, Club 33 members are invited, other celebrities and dignitaries, especially.
I think some family members of some of the people that are performing within it.
Right. Some media, obviously. But yeah, again, you can, if you're at the park, go see, watch it, but you're not going to be in a seating area. You're going to be set back, and they do have very strict crowd controls. And everything I've read and everything I've seen from bloggers, et cetera, is people pretty much have to camp out kind of in that.
You pretty much
area.
rope drop that night's Candlelight Processional.
Yeah, so you're not doing much else in the park. But it is something that's very unique. The other thing is that it's only held 2 evenings a year. It's not like if you go to Disneyland website, you're not going to see any information announcing it or about it. But it's usually very early in the month that they have it for 2 consecutive nights. They do 2 shows each of those evenings, and the guest narrator is not even announced in advance to the public.
Yeah, it's kind of a surprise when it happens of who it's going to be. It's usually somebody very famous. I mean, it's LA, Hollywood, Orange County. Right. It's they have got a wide variety of people they can invite from there. So it's usually somebody you will know significantly, even as much as, if not more so, than what you would see at the Candlelight Processional at Epcot.
Exactly. Sometimes people find out because on social media, somebody might spot a particular star in the parks and start putting that information out. When they do come up and do mic check, and that usually is, okay, that's a definite who's going to be the person doing the narration there. But it is interesting how there's this, I don't want to say secrecy, but maybe surprise element that they provide over at Disneyland when they're doing their Candlelight Processional.
Yeah, and I the whole thing is interesting to me, the way they approach it, and it's really cool. And it's unfortunate that not as many people get to experience it out there as they do at Epcot, but it's also kind of cool that it is such a unique experience that if you happen to figure it out, or you happen to luck into the days when it's going to happen, and can be there for it, that it's quite an experience and something you'll always remember. Right.
I mean, the other thing is, knowing that it's typically one of the early weekends in December, and I think I've heard this year it's going to be like the 7th and 8th is what is rumored to be happening. One thing to keep in mind, well, one, getting a park reservation, but also the fact that it's actually really difficult to get in and move through the park because people are kind of huddled and staying towards that Main Street area.
USA is a little clogged. Yeah.
Right. They do open up a kind of like a backstage area that if you've ever been on a tour at Disneyland, that you sometimes get to have access through that side door by the beginning of Main Street USA. So they do try to do some efforts to prevent as much congestion, but it is something to keep in mind. If you're going to the park that day, Main Street USA is going to be packed.
For those of you who've been there and know, like when they do a nighttime parade, let's just say the Main Street Electrical Parade or the Paint the Night Parade is going on there, knowing that the Main Street USA will often get clogged with people getting ready for the parade and then the fireworks spectacular afterwards. You'll know where that side area is that you can often pass through because they open that up most nights when those are going on.
Right. And the area by Main Street, they're also very careful to block that area off for people to it's not like your normal parade where you can line up there as well. So it's a different experience, but it's also a very unique experience if you have that opportunity.
Basically, if you're going, that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
That's what you're planning on doing. Right. I mean, I would imagine that if you can get through that some of the attractions might be a little more wide open because so many people are there specifically for the Candlelight Processional at Disneyland. But I'm not having done it, I can't tell you for sure that that's the case.
Right. But it would make sense. Now, over here on the East Coast, we know it's very different. It is very much announced in advance. It's announced the dates. It's announced who's going to be the celebrity narrators, and your access to it is much easier. You can either decide to do a dining package and have that guaranteed seat without having to wait in a long queue ahead of time, or you can choose to do the standby and go in closer to the time of when the show is going to happen and have, seats that maybe not as ideal, but still pretty good and still able to see the entire show.
Or you can even get just a taste of it by, maybe you not go to the show, but you can just kind of pass by, maybe leisurely walk by. You can't stay and just hang out, but you can leisurely walk by and maybe catch a piece of a song or a piece of the narration or whatever it might be.
Right. So, similar shows, but very unique in terms of access to them. But I thought it was interesting to see that contrast.
Yeah, definitely different styles, different ways they go about it, but both ways are cool in their own way. I love that Epcot, you can plan ahead, you can find different ways. Even, the as far as the dining packages, they have day of dining packages. You have to pretty much rope drop those if you're going to do them. But there are those possibilities as well as the way book ahead. And yeah, of course you can stand by, get there early and wait for a few hours and get in and get a good seat as well.
Right. And, and some people even go, they don't stand in the standby line and try to get in towards the end. And on some days you might find that can happen as well. So, you could maybe be lucky in that regards. In terms of the dining packages, it has become so popular. And even though like Disney each year now has been adding a few more restaurants that are offering the dining package, it's sold out. I was looking, I can't see.
No, they go quickly.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't they? I know that you're probably paying more than what you would for your normal food, and especially when it's like the festival of the holidays and everything else is going on. So you might be trying some of that stuff. But you're going to eat in the parks. And if there's a narrator or you just want to see the show in general, it's a really great way to go about it. Spend a little bit more money just for that assurance that you're going to get a pretty darn good seat and not have to wait for hours on end to get that good seat.
Exactly. So since we're talking current day, I thought there were some other interesting fun facts, and I'm going to throw in a few other fun facts that may be more historical, but let's take a look at some current things. Now, in 1997, the Candlelight Processional at Walt Disney World introduced its first sign language interpretation of the show. Angela Roth, who is the head Candlelight interpreter and choreographer, said she blends her knowledge of interpreting along with her unique energy and craft of American Sign Language to share this story with it. As she says, she really puts her whole body into it and tries to even have some of the mannerisms of the speakers and, using facial expressions and other techniques of sign language to really to tell this story in a very immersive way for even those who are deaf or hard of hearing. And here's a couple quotes from her. She said, "Eye rhythm is where I put together the signs into a visual rhythm that, to the deaf eye, creates a visual flow. I use these eye rhythms and signs to the pace of the music's rhythm to create a similar effect of hearing the lyrics with the rhythm. My approach is not simply to sign the lyrics, but to treat each piece as a visual poem." And then she also goes on to say, "We are not here to be human captions. Like everyone at Disney, we are immersive storytellers and are responsible for ensuring every guest in attendance feels welcomed and sees themselves in the stories as well."
It's so important, especially when this is such an audio heavy. I mean, yes, there's the visuals,
Right.
of course, of the living tree and the choir and the trumpeters and everything else that's involved with this. But it is so much the singing, the narration and everything. So yes, it's extremely important to have that sort of inclusivity with that you're going to have that ability for those who are deaf, that can't hear, or even just have some issues with hearing. They maybe don't hear as well as others. So great. And yes, she does a phenomenal job. But I'm going to say this about all these sign language interpreters that you see at all these shows. We see it all the time when let's just say we're seeing the shows on Disney Cruise Line. I mean, those people that take those roles on, they take it full 100% and they are their own show.
Right.
I mean, you can just watch them and they are amazing the way they create that ability to be involved in all of these performances.
100%.
And credit to them for all of the hard work that they do to help make it magical for so many people. And even though I can hear everything, I enjoy watching them and their involvement in these shows. And that includes, of course, the Candlelight Processional.
Right. Yes. 100%. It really is touching to see the pride that they bring to it and the enthusiasm.
And how much they just sell out. I mean, they just completely sell out. And it is so good to see. Yes.
Yeah.
They definitely do not mail it in. That's for sure.
Right.
They are not human captioning.
No,
not by any stretch of the
all.
imagination.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on. Now, in September of 2015, a volunteer group of like 75 Disney employee choir members had the unique and rare opportunity to record new music for the Candlelight Processional ceremony, for the processional part. So they actually headed over to the 20th Century Fox studio lot in Century City at the historic Newman Scoring Stage, which is named after legendary film composer Alfred Newman. And they recorded new renditions of classic carols for the show's opening processional. And so now they're able to say they have the distinct recognition for professional recording at a place where Disney films like Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, Wall-E, and Saving Mr. Banks laid down their scores.
That's phenomenal.
I know, right? Yeah. It was that was debuted that December of 2015, and as they say, they and their colleagues are honored to know that their collaborative spirit can live on in Walt's original Magic Kingdom.
That is so cool. What a great tribute and great honor for them, and it's a great honor and tribute for us to get to hear it.
Right.
When we go to the Candlelight Processional, for sure.
Right. So moving on, another thing that I found that was very interesting in my research is about this service dog. So cast member Kayla Cortez is a character specialist at Disney California Adventure Park. She grew up as a trained vocalist and always dreamt of performing with the Disneyland cast choir. She said, it's something I've always wanted to do. As soon as I was able to attend the auditions, I forced one of my friends to come with me, and we sang I See the Light from Tangled. Mm-hmm. That was her audition. And obviously she was thrilled when she was casted into this, along with her service dog, Briar Rose.
Oh, Briar Rose. I love that. Oh, my goodness. That is so cool.
Right? So Kayla is a type 1 diabetic, but she says Briar Rose can alert her when her glucose levels are out of balance. In fact, she said Briar Rose is faster, better, and more accurate than any technology out there and is able to smell the chemical changes in my body.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That is spectacular. Thank you for that, Michelle. That is wonderful. I'm so tickled to death by that. Everybody, you're going to want to see the slideshow to see Briar Rose. I'm sorry, what's her name again? I apologize.
Kayla.
Along with Kayla, in their outfits, obviously for the Living Tree.
In their gowns.
Go see the YouTube video for this picture because that's spectacular. Briar Rose, I love it.
I know.
It's wonderful, and that she does such an amazing service for Kayla.
Right. It's impressive. So when Kayla got this award of being casted into the choir, she was able to partner with Disney Live Entertainment costume production team to ensure that Briar Rose could also have choir robes. And this is a quote from her. She said, while we were at her fitting, meaning Briar Rose, and they were measuring her, we started to talk about my needs, Kayla's needs. I didn't even realize or think about how an accessibility robe would be helpful for me. And once we started discussing it, I got really excited. So what they did, costuming created a slit on the side of Kayla's robe so Briar Rose's leash could hang across her body, but not interfere with the outside part of the robe and how it hung. Additionally, the slit in the robe gives Kayla access to the insulin pump and other items that she might need to manage her sugar levels during a performance. And I love this quote here. She says, it's been really simple, easy, and positive experience supported by amazing humans and animals. Having this support is unlike any other, especially when you don't even have to ask. It's really special when people fill the gaps before you realize you need the help.
I can't tell you how much joy this brings to my heart. Just so much. I just think that's so wonderful.
Right?
That is fantastic. What a great thing that they were able to, that she was able to wow them with her singing. But the fact that they were willing to be so accommodating to her to make sure that she could go up there and this is just spectacular. Thank you.
Ah, sure. And the fact too, like I said, that she recognizes that team did that. They didn't just say, okay, let's do a duplicate robe for your service dog. What are the things that can make this easier for you and make you feel like you're shining out there? And I'm so appreciative to Disney in their philosophy of inclusion. And this is just one example. There's other choir members that have had wheelchairs and have had to have their costuming set up specially for ease in access of their wheelchairs. And some of those wheelchair cast members also have service dogs, so coordinating that. This is just one example, but I thought it really exemplified what Disney is willing to do and wanting to do for these cast members.
It's wonderful. All around, wonderful. That's amazing.
Cool. All right, so we'll move on with another current information about Disney Candlelight Processional, and this is over in Alani. Now, they don't have that same show, but last year in December, they kicked off a new show, and I'm going to try to pronounce it. It's He Mo'olelo, Hemolele, a story of faith, hope, and aloha. And they said they designed it to be inspired by the Candlelight Processional, but with a cultural twist. And it features hula, Hawaiian chant, storytelling, and songs throughout it.
That's wonderful too. I like that. I didn't know that existed. Now
I know, I didn't
Now I
either.
need to get to Aulani for the holiday season to see that show. That's amazing.
So as I mentioned, it started last year. I haven't seen it posted that it's going to happen this year, but I also haven't seen that they're discontinuing it. So I would think that it's something that one could look forward to. But what this experience did was it brought dozens of volunteers from across the resort who wanted to express their joys of the season in a way that's never been done before at the Aulani Resort. And there's the entertainment activities cast member, Charles Tim explained, I'm going to quote him, he said, being involved in the He Mo'olelo Hemololele, I apologize if I said that wrong, has filled me with a sense of pride in our Mo'olelo, which is stories, mele, music, leo, voices, and hula dance that is shared with our guests from around the world. And now they can experience the holiday season from a distinctively Hawaiian view.
Okay. Now, we wanted to go to Aulani for a long time. Now I think we need to go to Aulani for the holiday season.
I know,
mean,
right?
I just don't know any other way around this. We have to do this. It's amazing.
It's very cool. We'll have to do it like we'll do the Candlelight Processional at Epcot, and then the next day jet over to
Hey,
Hawaii.
Disney, want us to do something fun? Let's do the Candlelight Processional at Epcot, then jet over to Anaheim, and then we'll do the
That's
Candlelight
true.
Processional there.
And then we're
and
closer
then we'll
to Hawaii.
jet to Hawaii.
There you go.
And do I'm not going to even try the name. I credit to you for trying that name. But the holiday show at Aulani, we
Right.
can do that all. Maybe hey, how about a holiday show at Paris? We'll do it all. Okay, Disney, just get us in. We don't need to pay for us completely. We'll take care of some of the money with that. We just want
True.
an in on all those shows, and we'll
Right.
go and do it.
Exactly. So I have a couple other remaining fun facts. We'll move on here. And just to share with you that the Candlelight Processional was actually shown twice on Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color television program. The first one was in December of 1962. That was themed Holiday Time in Disneyland. And then in December of 1966, in fact, December 18th of 1966, it aired on that Wonderful World of Color called Disneyland Around the Seasons.
That one's on YouTube, or not on YouTube. I mean, Disney Plus, right?
That's right. And it includes Walt showing viewers around the park a little, as well as some other scenes. But sadly, it aired 3 days after Walt passed away. So that had to be a unique time for people watching TV and seeing that, knowing he had just passed away 3 days before. I mean,
wow. When we watch that again, I'll take it another whole way that I wasn't expected. Like I haven't had enough tears already.
I know.
I've already brought
I keep
tears
welling
to
up.
my eyes throughout this presentation, and I need to share that too. And oh my goodness.
Now, there's been so many, and that was one thing I thought, I'm not going to go through all the people who've been narrators because there's been so many, but this one touched my heart, and that was Dick Van Dyke. He's done it multiple times, but right after, Mary Poppins came out, he narrated the December 1965 Candlelight Processional, and it was the last one that Walt attended.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah. So there was also another TV special in the 70s, 1976. They had Christmas in Disneyland with actor Art Carney. And apparently he played like a Scrooge kind of type guy who visits Disneyland with his two grandchildren. And because of the beauty of Disneyland's Winter Wonderland and, Mickey and Minnie, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, they also in this special had Sandy Duncan and Glenn Campbell, and the Candlelight Processional on Main Street, USA. They said it was hard for him to stay crabby, and the crotchety old man became a very merry grandfather. because of this great holiday spirit.
That's wonderful.
I know.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of people that experience that same kind of thing. Like, you're a little crotchety about the holiday season. And then you go and you visit Disneyland or you visit Walt Disney World, and then you see some of the amazing magical decorations and everything that comes along with it, and the Candlelight Processional especially. And then suddenly that changes a little bit and you're full-fledged into the holiday season.
Right. Exactly. Now, in 2019, Disney decided to actually do a live podcast or broadcast, a streaming of the Candlelight Processional from Epcot, and that was with the guest narrator, Neil Patrick Harris.
Heard a little bit about him.
Yes. So, it really went from just showing glimpses in TV shows till they also did offer that live streaming. Of course, you can see a lot of people have posted things on YouTube.
Bloggers have put things out there. If you want to look, whoever your favorite narrator ever was, there's probably a recording of it somewhere on YouTube.
Yes, and Scott's seen them all, I think. So.
It's true. Good point.
So that's the end of our PowerPoint. But I do want to just conclude with that, it has grown from something just very simple, gathering of carolers, to this magnificent classic concert that has obviously massive choirs, the living Christmas tree, orchestras, the fanfare trumpeters, bell choir soloists, sign language interpreter, guest conductors, and celebrity narrators. I mean, it's amazing. But for all its grandeur, Disney guests say that they particularly love the Candlelight Processional for the way it makes them feel each holiday season. And similarly, the guest narrators get a lot of joy out of this. And that's why a lot of times you'll see them returning. Now, this is coming from actor Howard Keel, who was in several of them, both at Disneyland and Walt Disney World during the 80s. He put it this way. I'm going to quote him. "I've never been a very religious person, but when you stand up there for all of those people with that incredible chorus and orchestra beside you, it's a wonderfully moving experience. In fact," he added, "I was so moved I could hardly speak."
So cute.
Yeah. So it is something that is special. If you haven't experienced it, it's something you probably would really be surprised at how much you do experience. If you have experienced, you know what I'm talking about. When you're there, it is an immersive, beautiful experience. And whether you're religious or not, it just is all about the holidays, all about humanity and love. And so it's wonderful.
It is. It really is. I'm very clear with you. And that was wonderful presentation, by the way, Michelle, as they always are.
Well, thank you. Now, I do have a bonus offer for our newsletter subscribers. And if you subscribe to the newsletter by Wednesday, you'll get to have this. We're going to include a paper printable craft project there that was designed by Disney Imagineers, and it includes the Disneyland train station model and a train, the Candlelight Processional chorus, and Main Street grounds for the holidays.
And this is something you build out of paper?
Yeah, you print it out. You can color it in the way you want because it's just the schematic, the black and white. You cut it and put it together, and you can have your own little display, little diorama.
Total fun for the entire family, and it can be a fun little decoration for to get a little taste of Disney even at home during this time of year. That's great. Yeah, subscribe to the newsletter for sure if you haven't already.
Anyways, so that's our look at the Candlelight Processional.
The Candlelight in the Kingdoms. Very good, Michelle. I always learned so much. I didn't know I was going to be brought to tears by this, but thank you for that. No, great job, Michelle. As she always does. Every single time.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I hope you listeners.
Very much so. And that is Candlelight in the Kingdoms.